Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum TIF and our technology partner, Prime Infotech Solution. I am Jolly Singh, co-host at Koffee and associate with Prime Infotech Solution. It's the Emerging Lawyer series dedicated to exploring the journeys of rising stars in the legal field, and today's theme is in the arena from law to sports. Today, we are thrilled to have Deep Roy, a distinguished lawyer specializing in international sports law, as our guest. As the founder of Sensato Legal and co-founder of Doctrina Ludus, Deep has made significant contributions to the sports industry, representing clients before prestigious bodies like Court of Arbitration for Sports and the FIFA Tribunal. With a decade of experience, a keen interest in academics, and a passion for empowering individuals through sports education, Deep's story is both inspiring and enlightening. So let's delve into his professional achievements, personal insights, and vision for the future of sports law. A very warm welcome to you, Deep.
Thank you, Jolly. Thanks a lot for the introduction. I'm looking forward to the session. So, yes, let's begin.
The feeling is mutual, sir. So before we get started with the conversation, I would very much like to just notify the flow of the conversation that we are going to have today. We have 3 rounds in total. The first one is the professional questions round. The second round is the personal questions round. And we end the entire conversation with a very fun rapid fire round, at the end of which, if you answer really well, we have a small surprise also scheduled for you. So embrace yourself and let's get started with the very first round, which is the professional questions round. And my very first question to you would be that what motivated you exactly to specialize in international sports law, and how did you get started in this field? It's not a very usual field that, especially for the legal law students, that they go for. So how did you get into this?
Right. I'll try to address the second part of your question first, just by starting off with how my journey began. So, when I started my law school journey, I was not aware of sports law at all. Of course, it goes without saying that I was very interested in sports. I've never played any sport at a professional level, but I would, play whatever sport I could when I was in school, when I was in college. And of course, I used to watch sports as well, follow several sports very closely. Now, if I remember correctly, towards the end of my first year of law school, a colleague of mine, an acquaintance, contacted me. He was a football player, playing at I wouldn't say a very top level, but sort of a semi-professional level. He informed me that he and some of his colleagues needed some assistance with some of the contracts that they had to sign. So I told him, I was honest, I told him that, look, I'm not really a lawyer. I'm a law student, that too a first year. So even when it comes to basic contractual principles, my knowledge is very limited. But he told me that, look, I mean, we are on, our budget is very, very limited. So you're the best that we have at our disposal. So I believe that, your legal knowledge is more than that of mine and of my teammates who are all football players. I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. I have warned you guys. Anyhow, so I tried to help them out. I don't really remember if I'd done a good job of it, but that got me thinking that I'm like, okay, there is a need for lawyers in the sports industry, at least with contractual stuff. I also became aware of, certain issues that athletes face and some sort of disputes they get into. So I started doing some research because I was always interested in sports. I was like, okay, would it be possible for me to work as a lawyer in the sports industry? So when I started doing my research, I got to know that there are many lawyers in the US and in different European countries who are working in the sports industry, exclusively in the industry, and doing that with a huge amount of success. I also got to know about some sports law practitioners in India. There weren't many because this was back in 2010, 2009, 2010, around that time. So almost 15 years back. So anyhow, I got to know about this law firm called Law Offices of Nandan Kamath, which is the first dedicated sports law firm in India, based out of Bangalore. I did an internship there in my second year, if I remember correctly. That again gave me more clarity regarding what sort of work is happening in the sports industry. What are Indian lawyers doing? What are the challenges that athletes are facing? So once thing led to another, but that is, to sum it up, that is how my journey began in this profession.
Okay. Just to like add on to the question that you mentioned managing contract and everything as your first line. So very much would like to understand the experience of first line, because one legal professional to another, a first line is always very special one. Like you are very skeptical about the quality of work that you are going to deliver, because you want to excel in it, but at the same time you are like very hesitant about it yourself accepting the work. So how did it went on? Like,
Right. Look, I wouldn't really call this my first case, or this friend of mine. I wouldn't really call him my
okay.
first client. He didn't really pay me. I think he
Okay.
bought me dinner because, again, like I told you, I was maybe 18
Yeah.
years of age and first year. So it was more like, okay, let me. I was a bit nervous. You always
Right.
are, but I was happy to help them out. Speaking to them and then just looking at relevant
Contract. Right.
contractual provisions and looking at the clauses. It was a fun experience for me, from what I remember. Again, it's been like what, 15 years now. So I don't remember the details, but I remember it being a fun experience. This was during a break, during an internship break. So it was fun, but I wouldn't really call that my first sports law matter. It's just that something that, uh, motivated me to maybe consider this as a profession.
So like, would you like to share about your first time experience where you had a legit
Hmm.
first line in your sports law career?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that would be in 2015 when I started working in the sports industry and I had a job. I was working at a sports management firm in Delhi. But on the side, I was, of course, meeting a lot of people who were working in the sports industry. That is when I started working with some startups, advisory work,
Yeah,
helping
right.
them with their contracts, just basic legal advisory work. That is when I started taking clients of my own, I'd say. But again, that was something I was doing part time because, again, I had a job. I was just doing this on the side, sort of a side hustle, which is very important when you are trying to get into a niche industry. The pay is not that great when you start off. So side hustle is also important, and it helps you learn as well. So whoever's listening to this, if you want to, get into a niche industry, make sure that you explore all possible avenues. It will help you earn money, stay afloat, and also you will gain valuable experience.
Couldn't agree more to what you just said. Uh, we are in the same boat, I guess. Can you describe some of the most challenging cases that you have worked at the Court of Arbitration for Sports?
Hmm. Look, every matter is challenging. It's
Right.
very difficult to speak about one particular matter. But I think for me, the most challenging one, and also perhaps the most memorable one, remains the first matter that I handled. This was back in 2018. So I just completed my master's and I was working for a law firm in Spain. And this was the first cast matter that I was handling. So, traveling to Lausanne and Switzerland along with my senior, it was a nerve wracking experience. I was super excited, but very nervous at the same time. And I was very fortunate that the arbitrator for that particular matter was a Swiss academic, an arbitrator called Ulrich Haas. And to appear before him, I had read his work for years before that. And to appear before him was super exciting, but it was sort of a fanboy moment for me
Right.
at the same time. So yeah, I think that remains my most memorable and challenging one. Maybe the matter was not. Might have handled more difficult matters in the past 5 or 6 years, but then that one I was very nervous before the hearing.
Right. Or obviously outstands the rest, because like a first experience is always the first experience where you like stand in the court. You have that jilts in your body, right? How do you handle the complexities of cross-border transactions in the sports industry?
I think when we talk about transactions in the sports industry, transactions, so there are two types. One would be your general commercial matters. By way of example, let's say a football club from Spain is entering into an agreement with a sponsor, a brand from Japan. Okay. And a sponsorship agreement is being signed. That is of a commercial nature. Now here local laws would apply. You would have provide for an arbitration clause or provide jurisdiction to local courts of perhaps of Spain, right? But so for these matters, we need to sometimes work with local councils of that country. With Spain, it's a bit easier for us because we have two Spanish lawyers who are an integral part of our team. But let's say if it's not Spain, if it could be in the UK or in Germany. So we have to sometimes work with local lawyers who are well versed with the domestic law as well. Because there are some, I mean, you have a certain set of principles which apply to all contracts.
Right.
And there are certain ways of doing business in sports as well, which we are quite well aware of. But then certain issues for certain issues you need to work with local lawyers of that particular country. The other type of transactions I would say are sports related in the sense that they may be of a commercial nature, but they are governed by sports specific regulations.
Yeah,
So,
compliances, we may say.
I'll just try to explain with the help of an example. Let's say when we talk about football transfers, okay, I'm sure people are aware of transfers that happen in football or employment contracts that are signed. For instance, Mbappe, a French football player, recently signed for Real Madrid. So, employment contract where parties from different countries are involved. Now, most of these contracts are governed by the regulations of FIFA, and there are separate tribunals which would have jurisdiction with respect to these matters. So for these sort of transactions, our job becomes my job becomes a little easier because this is my area of expertise. So generally speaking, I don't need to take the assistance of course, my team is helping me out on these matters, but I don't have to take the assistance of external counsel unless maybe I need to figure something out regarding taxation. That is something, of course, you might need to consult someone regarding.
Right. So, when we are talking about the nature of the transaction in sports law, just for the understanding of our audience, can we say like it majorly revolves around 90% of maybe not 90%, but 70% of it revolves around the contract management and the commercial transactions that is happening in between like the parties, party or company to the other, and the other 30% is the general compliances, tax and everything. So
I don't know about the percentage, but see, so what sort of contracts do sports lawyers work on? You have your employment contracts, your transfer agreements, your sponsorship agreements. Okay, these are very common endorsement deals and such. Then you have dispute resolution, which of course, especially when we talk about a sport like football. Football is played in more than 200 countries. So a lot of contracts are being signed. So a lot of disputes happen, right? So dispute resolution forms a huge part of the work that I do. Okay. Then of course there are also disciplinary matters. Let's say any sort of game is happening. Maybe there's some violence in the crowd. Okay, crowd trouble, or several other issues could be there. There could be instances of racism, of sexual harassment. These matters also come up. Then you have doping related matters, match fixing and such. So there are a plethora of matters that you need to deal with as a sports lawyer.
Thank you for the clarification, because like as per the general basic understanding, this is what a person infers from the if they don't have the deep knowledge about the industry that huh. So uh, going towards the next question, that what are some of the key legal issues that athletes and sports organizations face today, and how do you help them navigate these challenges? You mentioned doping and crowd and everything. So, but what do you feel is the key ones, like the most important ones, if you have to like categorize from 1 to like 10?
Look, there are several challenges. From a legal perspective, what I'd say is a major issue, and especially in the Indian context, a major issue is the lack of effective dispute resolution tribunals within federations. Okay. Let's say if we take, again, we will talk about football quite a bit during the session.
Right.
Just giving you a heads up. So when we look at football, we have the All India Football Federation, which is the governing body. Now, the All India Football Federation has a tribunal where you can take disputes to, right? Whether there's it's a dispute between a club and a player, or an agent and a player. You can you can admit those disputes to the Player Status Committee of the All India Football Federation. Now, when we talk about other sports, not many sports have a very effective tribunal or committee within the federation. I believe that is the need of the hour, especially in India. Because, see, for athletes, especially, going to local courts is not the best option. They tend to have very short careers, right? Now, generally speaking, let's say you have 10 years, 10 to 15 years maybe. Now, if you spend 3-4 years of your life uh, in litigation, it's really not a great outcome. Plus, a lot of these athletes also come from underprivileged backgrounds, so they cannot also bear the cost of litigation. So I think when we talk about federations and athletes as well, again, from a legal perspective, the need of the hour in India is for these federations to have functional, independent dispute resolution tribunals.
Okay, sir. So, can you share your experience in dealing with match fixing and anti-doping cases specifically?
I think for these sort of matters, the first challenge is communicating with your client.
Right.
Because look, there's a lot of taboo attached to match fixing and doping, right? So oftentimes your client will not tell you the truth. Even if they are guilty, they will try to even convince a lawyer that they have not committed any offense. So that's your first challenge. So it has happened many times that I've told the athlete that, look, you have to come clean. We don't want to be in a position where you are telling me that, okay, I was not involved in fixing one game, or a bunch of games, and then we find out that there's a paper trail, that there is evidence indicating that you have accepted money from uh, unknown individuals, or from someone who's known as a fixer. So that's the first step, I believe. Even with anti-doping, most of the time players will tell you, no, I'm not aware of having ingested any prohibited substance, something would mix in my drink, etc., etc. But at least the athlete needs to tell me the truth so that I can evaluate, look at the evidence, and try to come up with a defense. That's not always the case. I remember working with a tennis player, I think it was a couple of years back. He was very upfront with me. He told me that, look, I was at a very bad phase in my career. I was constantly getting injured. And to recover from the injury, I did take some substance, which is prohibited. I was aware of that. Or at least I had a very good reason to believe that whatever my trainer was giving me is prohibited. But that helped me in my recovery, and I thought that I won't get caught. Sometimes it's a matter of chance as well, right? Not drug tests will not always be conducted. So he came clean, and I think that helped us build a defense for him as well. So that's the first challenge. Then there are several other issues with fixing matters. What happens oftentimes is that many of these players who are charged with match fixing, they are being scapegoated, to be honest, because fixing happens at multiple levels. It's
Right.
usually not only the player that is involved. The team management is also, generally speaking, involved. people who are at higher positions at a certain club are sometimes involved. So when an issue is raised and an investigation is done, sometimes what uh, let's say the authorities at some of these clubs, they try to throw some players under the bus because someone needs to be convicted. So we've seen that happen many times. And in some countries where, I mean, of course, there's a lot of corruption in many countries, and sports federations can also be corrupt. I've had cases where my client was not even afforded a proper hearing. So it can be very, very complex to work on match fixing matters. Of course, when you talk about high profile athletes, it's a little different. But then, not many athletes are very well known, or are making a lot of money, or are making the headlines for that matter. So it's very easy sometimes to convict an athlete, suspend someone for 2 years, 5 years, or even impose a lifetime ban and just get away with it, because no one is all that concerned about an athlete who's not very well known, let's say.
Okay. How has your education at ISD and Columbia Law School influenced your career in sports?
So when you go for a master's, when you go abroad for your master's, I think there are two things that you're looking for. One is, of course, the learning, the education part, and number two is exposure, networking, and all of that. I think, of course, the learning part is, I mean, for me, I do believe that I learned a lot during my master's from the classroom teaching. Things were taught from a practical perspective, so it was a great experience in that regard. But I think the bigger takeaway was the sort of contacts that I managed to build, the sort of people that I met, my seniors, even my colleagues and all, who my batchmates, for instance, I work with many of them on a very regular basis. We were talking about this earlier, right? That how sometimes I have to take the assistance of a lawyer from a particular country because I may not be very well versed with the domestic laws of that particular country. So when I did my masters, I think there were students from 20 odd countries. So that's a huge asset for me. It's relatively easy to, let's say, if I need assistance from a lawyer from Turkey or from Brazil or from the US for that matter, to just call up a friend and like ask them for help, or ask them to put me in touch with someone who might be able to help me out. So this was a really I mean, it was of great help to me, the experience that I had during my masters, and that has really helped me build a global client base, I would say.
Okay, sir, just to add on to the question, how much do you think, uh, you have already explained this, but like just to delve into the topic further, how much do you think is like networking important, especially in our legal profession? And also like if you could share some tips and tricks on how like you can develop that networking for the people, for the law students who are not very much extroverts. Not a lot of people are like very much open and comfortable with going on and making connections. So if you would like to share some tips and tricks they can follow to just make sure that wherever they are working or learning, they can have a good networking for their future
Right,
endeavors.
right. Look, I mean, networking is very important, especially if you want to start your own practice. You need to have certain connections in the industry, and I did not have any. I don't. My father is not a lawyer. I don't have a I don't come from a family of lawyers or anything. So I've had to do everything from scratch. No one from my family has played professional sports either. So I had to do everything from scratch. I think what has really helped me is I enjoy my work, and I've always been honest. I've been curious. It is difficult sometimes to reach out to people because you might feel shy, you might be scared that I might ask a stupid question. But generally speaking, there are no stupid questions unless you are, being overly annoying. People will respond to you for the most part. At least in the sports industry, I have had a very good experience in that regard. many seniors that I reached out to, they did respond to my queries whenever I've had a chance to, I bumped into someone, whether that was at a conference or during some meeting. People have been responsive for the most part. I think for what you were stating earlier, for folks that feel a bit shy, it is a bit of a challenge to get over that shyness, but it comes with practice. Just put yourself out there. I mean, unless again, don't call people up directly. Okay, don't ask like too many questions. Just keep it polite. I think sometimes people get go a bit overboard with their curiosity. Honestly, I find very annoying if someone just calls me up directly. No, in the middle of the workday. I mean, I think that is a bit irresponsible. I don't do that even with people I'm very close to. My colleagues and all, drop someone a text on
Huh.
LinkedIn, try to set up a meeting. There are ways to do it. I think there's a lot of material available on the internet as well these days. And just try to get over the shyness, because at the end of the day, you're a student or a young lawyer. Even if someone does not respond to you, it's fine. Just move on. Don't take it as a failure. Don't take it to heart. We all face rejection. It's important to persevere.
Definitely. Um, I am just going to club the two questions together. You have founded Sensato Legal. Also, you are co-founder at Doctrina Ludus. So, the first question would be, what inspired you to co-found, and what impact do you hope to achieve through that Doctrina Ludus initiative? And also, like, how are you like exactly managing the dual roles as founder and co-founder?
So, Doctrina Ludus, those that are not aware, it's a sports education platform which we launched. It's almost been 2 years now, I think, year and a half. Along with I launched it along with my colleague Tarun, who teaches law at Gujarat National Law University. So what happened is that I think since 2020 or so, I have been conducting lectures at several universities. I've been a part of several courses and such, and I have worked on several of these courses with Tarun. So we have interacted with a lot of students in the past, let's say 4 or 5 years, and the general theme has been that law students or young lawyers, they are finding it very difficult to figure out how to, one, get into the sports industry, and number two, how to grow their practice. I think getting into the sports industry is a huge challenge in itself, because there are not a lot of opportunities available. So our idea was to create a platform. We offer courses, conduct webinars and conferences and such, and just help people figure out, one, whether getting into the sports industry is their true calling or not, and two, how they could effectively, let's say, build a CV so that their chances of landing a job increases to a certain extent. That was the idea behind setting up Doctrina Ludus. Plus, of course, we love to talk about sports. It also serves as a platform where we can connect with like-minded individuals, whether uh, it be fellow industry professionals or sports law enthusiasts. So that was a goal behind setting up Doctrina Ludus. I think your other question was, how am I managing the
Yeah.
two roles? Yeah, look, so Sensato Legal, of course, my law practice is my bread and butter. Uh, and again, Tarun also, he teaches law. So Doctrina Ludus, for both Tarun and I, it's a passion project. We take it very seriously, but we also have a lot of fun. It's very interesting for us. So it's not so hard to take time out for things that you're passionate about. In my practice, I enjoy working as a sports lawyer. So if you really enjoy doing something, you will find time. It's not all that challenging. Of course, sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming. I don't get to go on, long holidays. For the past,
Right.
I think, 3 or 4 years, my longest vacation has been for 4 days, I suppose.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I try to take more frequent vacations, but it's difficult for me to. Yeah, I really miss that. I love traveling, and I would earlier, go on long vacations for 2 weeks or more. But now it's very difficult because I need to be available
Right.
all the time. So I'm working on it. I need to take longer breaks. That's what everyone has been telling me.
You
But let's see.
should. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try. I'm trying my best to work on that front. Yeah.
Okay. So, you are like also like running education platform, sports education platform, and also you mentioned talked about like developing building a good CV for a law student. So, a very important question that comes up in the recent trend that we are looking upon today is like law students who are fresh out or fresh law graduates, let's say, who are fresh out of law schools, because there is not a lot of practical learning there, a lot
Right.
of bookish learning there, also like not a very specific one. All the general laws are like taught, but not the specific laws that might be of use when they are specializing. They are not like given much importance to or much heed to, right? So there has been a trend like of getting certifications, diplomas in specializing, and but there is other opinion also of getting an internship where you are like hands on learning the practical experience and everything. So what do you think should be like the better option, a better preference for the fresh law graduates, whether they should seek a proper certificate course or diploma course where they are like learning the nuances of the any like specializing subject that they are going for, or they should like rather go invest that much of time towards the getting a good internship in that particular field. So how would you take that? Because there's a like run for certification courses online right now
Yeah.
in the market. So how do you go for it? What is your opinion about?
Look, what I'd say, and I want to stick to sports law
Right.
because that is, of course, my
Huh.
area of expertise. I don't want to talk about other fields within law. Um, but what happens these days is that let's say forget about jobs. Even when we are looking at internship applications, there's quite a bit happening. Even in like sports law, the courses being offered, moot courts are happening. There are webinars which are being organized. Now, a lot of people are attending these or diploma courses that you just mentioned. Now, what I would uh, tell someone who wants to get into sports law, for instance, is that yes, go for a course, diploma course. That should be your stepping stone in a way. You use that to acquire some knowledge, get introduced to the concepts, understand what it's all about. Step number two would be applying for internship. So when I'm looking at applications these days, there are some students who have no prior knowledge or experience in sports law. I mean, of course, I'm not talking about work experience here. I'm just talking about
Basic
publications.
knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, no publication. Maybe someone has published two articles. Someone has enrolled, has done a certificate course. Okay, that's let's say uh, person A. Now, person B has no prior knowledge, no experience. Which person would have the edge? Do you think?
The person having the basic knowledge at least.
Right?
So, huh.
That is how things work. No, diploma course or whatever certification course. Uh, Start with that and then apply for internship. That's what I would suggest.
Right.
Because of course, internship is a better way in the sense that you will learn more. I believe that you learn more from practical experience, but it also helps to have some theoretical background. Otherwise, there's no point in studying. No, I mean, we should just like scrap law school and just send people to courts and ask them to work as trainees. But I think the theoretical knowledge is also important. Only if you have some theoretical knowledge can you apply that in practice.
Right.
So again, we were talking about Doctrina Ludus. That's what we try to do, And one of the reasons why Tarun and I sort of collaborated is that because Tarun is into academics and I'm a practicing lawyer. So whenever we are designing a course, we try to cover both aspects. So
Which is
Tarun can
very important
yes,
in our
Tarun can
like
Right. Let's say we are talking about sponsorship contracts. Okay. Tarun can talk about what are the basic clauses, what are the basic provisions that you need to look at. Yeah. So, and then I can uh, teach them how to draft a sponsorship agreement or how to review certain clauses. What are the practical challenges that you're going to face? Both are important. They go hand in hand. Without having any theoretical knowledge, it's a little difficult to apply that into your practice. No.
Right. Definitely. Uh, what are some significant trends or changes you have observed in the sports law landscape over the past decade? You started in 2009 and 10. You like we are sitting in 2024. So,
Right.
what changes have you observed, and what do you think are some of the major changes that might and should come in the coming years? How do you see to it?
I mean, major changes, of course, in terms of opportunities, access to knowledge. I think it's much better now. When I started, when I did my internship back in 2010, I think Law NK was pretty much the only firm. And then there were not many courses that were being conducted. So for us to, learn about any topic it was very difficult, very challenging. I remember writing to, professors in the UK and the US, asking them to share some articles with me because I wanted to write a research paper. Now, in that regard, it has become much easier to at least have some basic understanding. There are a lot of courses which are being offered. Again, like I said, moot courts happening. If you are interested in sports law, there's several things that you can do. You can publish articles. So in that regard, things have improved quite a bit, I'd say. There are more Indians who are working in the sports industry. I think since 2016, 17, we've seen this trend where a lot of Indian lawyers have gone abroad. Some like me have worked abroad for a few years, have come back to India. Some of them are still working in European or South American countries. So in that regard, also, I think we have seen quite a bit of change. Uh, Regarding the future, look, I mean, of course, it's a niche industry and it's going to remain a niche. I don't think you'll ever see a sports law firm hire like 100
Hmm.
freshers. That's never going to happen. But I think opportunities are on the rise. Sports in India is also becoming more professional. It hasn't been all that long since sports became professional in India. The biggest sports league that we have in India, IPL, I think it started in 2018.
Right.
So it's been what 15, 16 years. You compare it to European football, IPL is a child.
Right.
Uh, Indian Super League, the football league that I think started in 13 or 14. That too, first few years it was just a tournament. Even other sports, the leagues are not all that old. So sports is still becoming more and more professional. So as it becomes more professional, you'll have more opportunities for lawyers as well. There will be more contracts being signed, more deals being executed, and of course, that will result in more disputes as well. That's how it works, right?
That is it for the professional questions round. We are towards our next round, which is the personal questions round. And my very first question would be asking you to share like your former years, like right from the school to college and to your first job, how your experience was, how your journey was. Would you like to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what to say. It's like, of course, not a very. It's difficult to answer such questions, right? I mean,
Okay.
if we talk about our career, I think about my career, I think my family, of course, has been a huge source of support for me. I chose a profession which it's not. I mean, of course, law is not a very unconventional profession, but to work in the sports industry, it's not something which is very common. And there have been several obstacles that I've faced, and I've taken several risks in my career. And I don't usually advise young lawyers or students to take the sort of risks that I've taken. I think the risks that I took, it worked out quite well for me, but it may not be the case with everyone. So my family has been a constant source of support in my journey.
Okay. So you mentioned like you have not traveled for like 4 years and have just like taken just a maximum of 4 days of leave, but you mentioned being a person who loves to travel. So, would you like to share any memorable experience from any of your travels for work or for leisure, for vacationing, any one of it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not that I have not traveled in the past 4 years. Of course, I keep traveling for work, and I've also taken breaks in between, but it has not been a very lengthy break. It has never been for more than 4 or
Okay,
5 days, let's say. So ideally, I would like
okay,
to travel for maybe a couple of weeks or 3, 4 weeks, a month if I could, but that is
okay.
not doable any longer because of course I have responsibilities, and when you're trying to establish a practice and such, you have to be very, very diligent and sincere, and you have to be present all the time. But hopefully, I mean, I have a bit more support now from my colleagues, so I can take longer vacations. But yeah, traveling, of course, is something I enjoy doing a lot. I mean, it's again very difficult to pinpoint on one particular trip, but I think post my masters, before I started my internship, I had gone to Italy for I think 10, 12 days. That was a
Okay.
really, really memorable experience. I was traveling alone. I met some friends there, but I was traveling alone. I went to the San Siro, which is the stadium of AC Milan, which is the club that I support. So, it was an amazing experience. I still get goosebumps when I think about that. Plus, I traveled. I was mostly in the north of Italy, so I traveled through several cities and towns and such. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm done with my masters. Now I'm going to start working, and it is a good opportunity for me to sort of take a break and enjoy myself a little bit, try to unwind before I start my new journey. And I did that, and yeah, that remains a very, very memorable trip for me.
Okay. What hobbies or activities do you enjoy when you have some free time?
Of course, traveling we just talked about. Apart from that, I try to play some sport if I can, although it's becoming increasingly difficult. Because I really enjoy team sports, football, cricket. These are the sports uh, I'd say, is relatively okay at. But
Right.
yeah, no, because many of my colleagues are like former professional players and such. So I feel a bit shy to talk about my sporting achievements because my sporting achievements are not that great, especially compared to many of my colleagues. So I try to stay very humble. But the problem with team sports is that you need to find some people, right, to play with. Now everyone's so busy; it's a little difficult. I mean, even for football, you need 10 people, but I try to play whenever I can. Of course, not like 11 side. Maybe if I get a chance to play 5 side football, I do that. Or I love running. I enjoy going for runs. I think that really helps me unwind. Um, I enjoy cooking whenever I get the chance to cook. Of course, I've stayed on my own for many years, so cooking is something which I had to learn, especially in Europe. You don't have
Okay.
like dabbas and maids and such.
And
Better
yes, yes.
teach yourself how to cook. So that is something still find relaxing, because when I was in Spain, I was cooking every day. So almost evenings, I would come back from work, maybe open a bottle of wine, and I mean, have maybe a glass or two. I wasn't drinking
Right,
every
right.
day, and then cook myself a meal. That was something which I used to find very relaxing. I don't cook every day now, but I try to, at least once or twice a week,
Okay.
prepare a nice
Uh,
healthy meal for myself.
okay. So, like your favorite meal or any dish like you can cook the best in the world if you are not trying to be very humble about it.
My favorite dish, I love Indian food, so I'd say my favorite dish would be biryani or any
Okay.
type of like kebabs. I'm a non-vegetarian, so I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this, but then yeah, that is
No, 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 no,
is what I like,
absolutely not.
enjoy. But when it comes to cooking, I'm not very good at cooking biryani, but I think I make pretty decent pasta.
Okay.
Maybe spaghetti.
Can you?
And
Yeah.
or I think I cook a pretty decent spaghetti bolognese.
Okay. Great. Can you tell us about a personal goal or project that you have been currently working on?
That's a tough one. Um, I'd say I've been paying more attention on my physical and mental health of late for the past, let's say, year or so. I'm also getting older, so I think it's time that I become a little more disciplined regarding my diet and such. And of course, mental health is something we often tend to neglect. We are also busy. That's also something I'm working on in a conscious manner, doing things which actively doing things which help me relax, just to manage the stress a bit better, because I think in the long run it would be extremely important for me to retain my sanity. Otherwise, I mean, the sort of profession that we are in, we are not going to be we'll get burnt out, and we won't survive. The idea is to work for the next at least 20 odd years, no? Of course, physical health goes
Right.
without saying. That's something everyone should pay attention to. So I'm trying to eat healthy, and then work out as much as I can. Just stay fit overall.
Definitely. What books or resources have had a significant impact on your personal and professional life?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. Which
Uh,
books have had a significant impact on me?
Books or resources have had a significant impact on your personal or professional life.
Hmm. Look, professional life. I remember reading a lot of John Grisham books when I was young. Those were fun.
Okay.
Then, of course, there are several movies which are centered around court practice, legal drama, and such. To Kill a Mockingbird is something I really enjoyed reading and also watching. It's a great movie as well. If you haven't watched it, I think you should. If you like old
I
movies,
will. I will. I will. I will.
yeah. Apart from that, also I think TV shows and all. When we were in law school, first second year, there was this series called Boston Legal, which was very popular. We used to watch that a lot. So I think popular culture has had some influence. Uh, Other than that, when we talk about resources and such, I wouldn't really say that any particular autobiography or biography has inspired me a lot. What has inspired me is meeting and interacting with lawyers who are senior to me. I've had the good fortune of meeting many very accomplished, smart individuals, legal professionals. I think that has had a huge impact on me. Even now, I really enjoy picking someone's brain, someone who's much senior to me. And what I was telling you earlier, um, it's really great that I've had the opportunity to do so, and people have been very kind to me in this industry. Maybe that has something to do with my master's program as well, where I managed to build connections with a lot of people. So if I need assistance, some help, I can always reach out to my seniors or even my peers for that matter. I think that has had more of an impact in my professional journey than any book or movie or some other resource.
Definitely. Last but not the least, personal round questions. What advice would you give to aspiring lawyers who want to specialize in sports law?
Hmm. Look, if you want to build your career in any sort of field, I think it's important to try and figure out what are the steps that need to be undertaken. I think the mistake that perhaps I had made, or many young students or lawyers continue to make, is that they look for shortcuts. They're like, okay, I go for this master's program, I go abroad, and then I will become a very good sports lawyer, let's say. But it doesn't really work that way. There's several things that you need to do. Again, specific to the sports industry, like we discussed earlier, enroll for a course, write an article, try to reach out to a couple of industry professionals, try to listen to their perspective, apply for internships, and start as early as possible. Maybe start when you're in your second or third year of law school, so that by the time you are done with your 5 year program, if you have enrolled for a 5 year program, that is, you already have clarity regarding whether you want to pursue this or not, because that's also very important. Sometimes
Right.
people want to get into the sports industry because they feel that, oh, I'm going to get to work with, Virat Kohli or with Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm going to get to meet them every day. One, that's not how it works. And even if you meet them, it's not that big a deal. And first couple of times you might be starstruck, but then it's your job. It is not that it's not that big a deal. That's not why. That's no reason to get into the industry. If you like the work, if you are interested in working in the industry, if you have some goal in mind, only then you should get into the field. And you will only get clarity when you enroll for courses, you speak to professionals, you do internships. That is how you obtain clarity, because that is the uh, first step, right? You need to first figure out whether this is your true calling or not. Then you'll be in a position to make an informed decision.
Right, right. That is it for our personal questions round. We are towards our last round, which is the rapid fire round. And as mentioned while I was introducing you, the rounds that we are going to have, that we have a small surprise if you answer really well. So you have to be like very quick, very smart with your answers. So should we get started with it?
Yeah, sure. I'm very nervous, but okay, let's give it a shot.
No, no, you don't have to be like, yeah. So
Let's do
favorite
it.
sports team.
AC Milan.
Favorite sports team.
AC Milan.
Coffee or tea.
Coffee.
Early bird or a night owl.
Night owl.
Favorite city you have visited.
Barcelona.
Books or podcasts.
Books.
Formal wear or casual wear.
Casual wear.
Okay. Flight or train.
Light. Yeah.
Favorite sports to play.
Cricket.
Work from office or home.
Hybrid.
Dogs or cats.
Dogs.
Okay, so that is it for the rapid fire round. And since like you really answered great, we have an ebook for you. This would be mailed to your address. Our team will be getting in touch with you, and the ebook will be like with will be signed by the author himself, and it would be mailed to you to your address with along with some surprise goodies. So embrace yourself. You will be like getting some like these gifts very soon from our behalf. And thank you so much for joining. This has been a wonderful experience, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as we did having you on this show. And I again thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this session with us. Thank you so much, Deep.
Thanks a lot, Jolly. I really enjoyed this session, and yeah, I hope the viewers also enjoy listening to us. Hopefully, there are going to be some takeaways. And yeah, again, thanks again for the invitation, and we'll be in touch.
Definitely,
Thank
definitely,
you.
Deep. And for our audience, please stay tuned to watch this and many other interesting coffee conversation episodes on our YouTube channel, The Coffee Conversation Show. Please subscribe to the channel, and we will be looking forward to yet another interesting coffee conversation with yet another guest speaker. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much, Deep, once again.